Snow fell over Chicago like it was trying to quiet the whole city. Inside a small apartment, a group of coworkers turned friends gathered for a calm New Year Eve, hoping for board games and boring comfort. But the office Christmas party from earlier in the week still hung in the air. Too much to drink, a few words that should have stayed inside people, a friendship that got complicated at the worst possible time. Tonight they are not chasing drama, they are trying to survive it quietly, with soft lights, sharp sarcasm, and the kind of honesty that only shows up when nobody is performing. Chapter 1. The Calendar Invite. The Monday after the office holiday party had a silence that felt poured into the hallways and left to set overnight. At Hollis and Pike Marketing, silence was not a natural state. It usually got replaced by keyboard clatter, rolling chairs, and laughter that sounded like it had been approved by human resources and then politely regretted. This Monday, the silence stayed. Noah Grant stepped out of the elevator with a travel mug that promised coffee and delivered disappointment. The lobby smelled faintly of evergreen, which would have been charming if it did not also smell faintly of last week. Someone had sprayed cinnamon air freshener at some point, likely as an act of heroism, likely as a mistake. The reception desk was dressed in garland that looked like it had survived multiple office eras and at least one rebrand. Tiny white lights blinked with the stubborn optimism of people who did not know what happened in Conference Room B last Thursday. Noah walked into the open office and felt the temperature of the room in the way people do when they are trying not to. A few voices moved in careful murmurs. It was like everyone had agreed to keep the volume low so the building would not wake up and remember. Ben Carter was already at his desk, sitting with the posture of a man trying to look innocent in front of physics. He had a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, and the 1,000-yard stare of someone who had searched how long embarrassment lasts in the human body. Mia Collins stood near the printer with a stack of papers and the expression of a person who had decided she would not be taken out by office equipment today. Emily Park was by the window, arms folded, looking out at the street where winter moved cars like chess pieces and pedestrians like side quests. Jordan Reed came in behind Noah, scarf still on, calm as always. Jordan had the rare ability to look rested no matter what happened. It was either discipline or witchcraft, and Noah did not know which was more unsettling. Noah sat down, woke his computer, and watched the screen light up with emails written by people who believed weekends were a suggestion. His calendar pinged immediately with a meeting titled Post-Holiday Alignment scheduled for 9. The title had the cheerful cruelty of someone who believed words could change reality. Ben rolled his chair closer and lowered his voice like he was talking to a sleeping animal. "Tell me you remember nothing." Noah kept his eyes on the screen. "I remember the part where you tried to start a chant." Ben looked wounded. That was a motivational exercise. It was not a chant, it was a cry for help with rhythm. Ben leaned back and stared at the ceiling tiles like he was trying to read messages hidden in the acoustic foam. "I have a gap. A full gap, like a pothole in my memory. I have the early part, and then I have me on my couch, fully dressed, holding a decorative pillow like it owed me money." Noah turned slightly. Ben looked intact, which felt like luck. "What is the last thing you remember?" Ben closed his eyes, searching through files that had clearly been corrupted. Richard making a toast. Something about synergy and family. Then me deciding I should outdrink Luke. Then me deciding I should dance. Then me deciding I should speak. "You have always been a man of decisions." Do not do that calm narrator thing. I need panic, not poetry. Noah glanced across the office. Emily was still by the window, motionless except for the tapping of her pen against her notebook. Mia opened the printer and pulled out a crumpled sheet as if extracting a stubborn thought from the machine. Jordan paused by Noah's desk and looked at Ben with quiet sympathy. "Hydrate. Pretend you have learned something. Repeat." Ben nodded like a man taking vows. "I have learned that peppermint schnapps is a liar." "That is a start." Jordan moved on. He walked through the office the way a librarian moved through chaos, patient, unbothered, gently judging. Noah opened his inbox and tried to focus on work, but the air had a heavy quality. It was not hangovers. It was the aftertaste of a night where people had been louder than they meant to be. Loud was easy. Quiet was where the consequences lived. A message popped up from Emily, a short note on the internal messaging system about a quick huddle at 9. She included the kind of line that sounded friendly and also sounded like a warning. Bring yourselves. All of yourselves. Ben stared at Noah as if the message had personally attacked him. All of myself is a risky offer, Noah kept typing. Try to bring only the responsible parts, Ben sighed. I am going to need to borrow some responsible parts. Mia approached and set a neat stack of papers on Noah's desk. Then she looked at Ben with calm patience. How are we feeling this morning? Ben leaned back and stared at the ceiling tiles, like a man who has met the limits of joy. Mia nodded, like that was the correct answer on a test. Good. Keep that energy. Use it to stay quiet. Ben blinked slowly. That is not kind. Mia gave him a patient look. It is kind. It is preventative. Noah tried not to smile. He did smile a little, the way a person smiles when the alternative is to start a new life in a different city. The office door opened and Claire Bennett walked in with her coat still on, cheeks pink from the cold. She paused in the doorway like she was stepping into a room where the air might have opinions. Claire had a gentle face and a careful way of moving, like someone who had learned not to take up too much space and then had forgotten how to stop. She waved at Mia and Noah and Ben, the wave of someone who was present but not fully available. Morning. Her voice was quiet, not weak, just measured. She walked to her desk, sat down, and opened her laptop with deliberate calm. Normal had become a costume everyone was wearing and it did not fit anyone. A few minutes later, Luke Harris arrived. Luke came in with his hood down and hair still damp from a shower that had clearly been long and thoughtful. He had the careful eyes of someone trying to measure the day before it measured him. Luke usually arrived with charm like a habit, greeting people, tossing out a joke, acting like worry was a hobby for other people. Today he arrived like a man carrying a glass of water and watching the rim. He nodded at Noah, nodded at Ben, nodded at Mia. The nods were polite, restrained, and faintly apologetic, as if he had already written a statement in his head and was waiting to find out where to read it. Claire did not look up right away. When she finally did, it was brief. Luke looked back for half a second too long and then looked away. If there was a private history between them, it was currently sitting in the space between their desks like a chair Noah wanted to claim. Ben leaned toward Noah again. Is it weird that I am afraid of 9 o'clock? It is not weird. It is accurate to village as the forest and men, dales in the gain and Angan bulks on Penhealth. There did bright overhead lights and a long table that looked designed to make people feel smaller than their job titles. Someone had put a bowl of candy in the centre, the universal signal of, we care about you as long as you do not cause problems. Emily stood at the front with a notebook and pen, calm as a person who had decided to be calm and trained for it. Richard Hale, their boss, was not there yet. That felt like either mercy or strategy. Emily looked around the room and met eyes without staring. We are going to do a quick reset. We are going to talk about the campaign timeline. We are going to talk about deliverables. We are also going to talk about Thursday. Ben sat up straighter as if posture could erase history. Luke kept his hands clasped on the table. Claire sat with her shoulders slightly tight, gaze on her own notes as if the paper might offer legal counsel. Emily continued, voice steady. I do not want a trial. I do not want a lecture. I want us to be honest enough to keep this from growing teeth. Mia gave a small nod, like, yes, that is the correct metaphor for the day. Emily tapped her pen once. If anyone feels uncomfortable about anything that happened, you can talk to me privately. If anyone feels like they crossed a line, you can talk to me privately. If anyone thinks someone else crossed a line, you can talk to me privately. We are not doing gossip. We are not doing punishment. We are doing repair and boundaries. Ben lifted his hand halfway and then lowered it, like a child remembering he was in adult trouble. Emily looked at him anyway. Ben cleared his throat. I would like to apologize for my general behavior. Emily waited, letting the moment breathe, and for attempting to lead a chant. Noah coughed once and tried to turn it into a polite sound. And for speaking to Richard like he was my college roommate, Emily nodded slowly. Noted. Thank you. Consider that apology received and also not a free pass. Ben nodded, chastened. Understood. Emily looked toward Luke and Claire without pinning them. We also need to acknowledge the simplest truth. Alcohol makes people louder and sometimes less accurate. We are adults. We can choose different. Next time, Luke swallowed, still looking at the table. Yes. Different next time, Claire nodded once, small and contained. The door opened and Richard Hale walked in with a paper cup of coffee and the bright smile of a man who believed time was optional. Richard wore a winter scarf draped perfectly, as if it had been styled. "Morning, team." His voice filled the room, confident, warm, unaware or pretending to be unaware. Emily offered a polite smile that did not invite anything. "Morning, Richard." "We are already in progress," Richard laughed lightly. "Love the initiative. Post-holiday momentum. That is what I like to see." He sat at the head of the table and opened his laptop. Noah could almost see the words in Richard's mind, little banners that read leadership. Emily kept the meeting on track, timelines, deliverables, a few gentle corrections. Noah mentioned the holiday party again, at least not directly. It hung in the air anyway, like a scent that cinnamon spray could not defeat. When the meeting ended, everyone stood and collected their things with the careful politeness of people, leaving a room where something fragile was stored. Out in the hallway, Ben walked beside Noah with his shoulders slightly hunched. "I feel like I just survived a quiet storm." "You did, and you did not start a chant during it." "Growth," Ben exhaled. "I am going to be the best employee for the next year." Noah looked at him. "That is a strong promise. Drink water first." At lunch, the break room filled slowly. People arrived in pairs, pretending it was coincidence. Someone warmed soup that smelled like comfort. Someone else unwrapped a protein bar with the loud confidence of a person who had never met shame. Ben sat with Noah, Mia, Jordan, and Emily. Claire sat at the far end with her salad, phone face down. Luke stood by the counter making tea, staring into the steam like it might give him advice. Ben tapped his spoon on the edge of his yogurt like a man testing reality. "So, fun party," Mia stared at him. No, Ben tried again. "I meant the part with the cookies." "The cookies were fine." Emily kept her voice even. "We are not doing a recap." Ben spread his hands. "I am not trying to recap. I am trying to confirm I am not being haunted." Jordan looked up from his sandwich. "You are not being haunted. You are being remembered." Ben grimaced. "That is worse." Noah watched Luke stir his tea. Luke kept his back to the table, but his shoulders shifted, as if he could hear everything anyway. Claire picked up her fork and then put it down again. She stood and moved to the sink to rinse her container, doing a task that did not need doing yet. Noah felt the impulse to fix something, which was familiar and useless. Fixing a group dynamic was like trying to fold fog. Mia glanced at Noah. "You look like you are about to volunteer for something." Noah shrugged. "I am thinking about New Year Eve." Emily looked at him, interested and suspicious. "What about it?" "We should do something simple, a small party. Something that gives us a different memory to sit next to the old one." Ben brightened immediately. "Yes, redemption party." Mia narrowed her eyes. No redemption theme, no speeches, no chanting. Ben held up his hands. "I am reformed." Jordan nodded slowly. "A calm night would be good." Emily tilted her head. Where Noah gestured, the way a person offers their home before they have time to regret it. "My apartment." "It is not huge, but it is clean enough to host shame." Ben grinned. "I will bring snacks. Like vegetables. I will be a new man." Mia looked at Ben. "You will bring chips and pretend a carrot was near them." Ben accepted that with the calm of a man who knew his limits. Claire returned to the table. Emily looked at her with gentle directness. "Claire." "You in?" Claire hesitated, then nodded once. "Yes. I can do that." Luke turned from the counter and walked over with his tea. Yes, I am in. The words were simple. The tone was careful. Noah felt the room shift a fraction. Not warmer exactly, but less frozen. Noah kept it practical. Board games, snacks, low music, minimal drinks, maximum soft lighting. Mia nodded. Good. Ben leaned forward. Can we do sparkling stuff? Like fancy? We can do sparkling anything that does not turn into a story. Ben nodded solemnly. Agreed. After lunch, Noah sent a short email invite to the group, because if you wanted adults to take something seriously, you packaged it in a calendar event and pretended it was professional. He kept the description short and gentle. That afternoon, Richard replied to the invite with an enthusiastic acceptance and a note that he would bring a surprise. Noah stared at the reply in his inbox and felt his soul sit down. He did not respond. He just looked across the office at Emily, who was typing with calm intensity, and Mia, who was already squinting like she could sense Richard planning something festive. A party would not fix anything. It might not even help. But it would give them a chance to act like friends, on purpose, instead of by habit. Noah took a breath and opened his email again, as if work could distract him from the approaching social event that had accidentally acquired a boss. Chapter 2. The Party Recap Nobody Requested. The week moved forward with the slow dignity of winter. The office lights turned on each morning like they were tired of the job. Outside, Chicago wore its grey coat and refused to take it off. Inside Hollis and Pike, everyone behaved like adults who had never made a mistake in the presence of a catered cheese plate. They held doors open. They asked about weekends. They used polite tones. They did not talk about Thursday. That did not mean Thursday stopped existing. By Tuesday, the silence had evolved. It was not quiet anymore. It was careful. Careful was what people did when they wanted to stay employed and also wanted to keep their friendships intact. At lunch, Ben tried again. It was not even his fault. His brain seemed wired to step on rakes and then act surprised by the handle. He sat at the break room table with Noah, Mia, Jordan, and Emily. Claire sat near the window with soup in a paper cup. Luke was by the vending machine, pretending to read ingredient labels like he was choosing a life path. Ben cleared his throat, like a man about to apologize for being born. Okay, hypothetically, if a person made a fool of themselves at a holiday party, is it better to address it or to let time bury it? Mia looked at him with the patience of someone watching a toddler approach an electrical outlet. Time will not bury it. Time will decorate it and then invite people to look. Ben frowned. That is upsetting. Emily kept her voice calm, like she was talking someone away from a ledge. It depends what happened, and who was affected, and whether anyone is still uncomfortable. Ben nodded quickly. Yes, exactly. Hypothetically, Jordan took a bite of his sandwich. In many cases, a sincere apology is better than silence, Ben brightened. Great, I can do sincere. Mia did not look convinced. Define sincere. Ben put a hand on his chest. I felt feelings. I learned lessons. I will not challenge anyone to outdrink anyone again. Mia stared at him. Start smaller, like I will not talk for 2 minutes. Ben looked personally attacked by the idea of quiet. Noah watched Luke out of the corner of his eye. Luke did not react, but his shoulders tightened the way a knot tightened before it loosened. Claire stood and walked to the trash, moving slowly, like she was trying to be quiet in her own life. When she passed Luke, she paused for half a second and then kept going. Luke watched her go like he wanted to follow, and also like he knew he should not. Noah felt the room holding its breath around them. The office was full of people, and still, the smallest pauses became loud. That afternoon, Noah found Claire in the hallway near the conference rooms. She was alone, looking at a framed poster about brand integrity that had never once protected anyone from embarrassment. Noah stopped a respectful distance away. You okay? Claire blinked, then nodded. Yes, I am okay. Just tired. Tired has a lot of meanings. Claire gave a small smile that did not quite reach her eyes. It does this week. Noah kept his voice gentle. New Year Eve is optional, you know. You do not have to do anything you do not want. Claire looked down at her hands, then back up. I do want to. I just do not want the part where everyone looks at me like I am a headline Noah. Understood that too well. In offices, people loved a story. They loved it even more when they could pretend it was concern. Nobody will turn you into a headline at my place. Claire hesitated. Ben might, Noah sighed. I will feed him chips until he forgets how to speak. Claire let out a quiet laugh, the first real sound Noah had heard from her in days. Thank you. Later, Luke found Noah by the coffee machine. The machine made its usual grinding noises that sounded like a complaint. Luke held a paper cup, but he did not drink. He watched the coffee drip like it was a moral lesson. Can I ask you something? Sure you can. Luke kept his eyes on the machine. Is everyone talking about it? Noah answered carefully. Everyone is talking around it. Luke nodded, absorbing that. I do not want Claire to feel watched. Noah looked at Luke. Luke had charm, yes, but he also had something else under it. A real worry. A real care that did not know how to land safely. Then do not add fuel to the watching. Keep it quiet. Keep it kind. Let her set the pace. Luke swallowed. I have been trying. Noah believed him. He also knew trying could still be messy. New Year Eve will help if we keep it simple. Luke nodded again. I am going to stop drinking for a while. Noah waited. Luke added more because silence did not hold it. Nate, because I am a disaster. Because I do not like who I was that night. Noah kept his voice even. That is a good reason. Luke looked relieved and also sad. I do not remember everything. I remember enough to wish I remembered less. Noah thought of the missing hours, the gaps people carried like bruises you could not see. Claire remembers more than she wants, I think. Luke flinched. Yeah, Noah did not push. He did not need details. He did not want them. Life already had enough sharp edges. This story needed soft ones. On Wednesday morning, Richard called a team meeting. Richard loved meetings the way some people loved mirrors. He stood at the front of conference room A with a bright smile and a slide deck titled New Year, New Standards. The title alone made Noah tired. Richard clasped his hands. Team, I want to start by saying how proud I am of our culture, our togetherness, our willingness to show up as our full selves. Ben stared at the table like he was being punished by words. Richard continued. However, we must also reflect on professionalism, on boundaries, on how we represent Hollis and Pike. Even at social events, Emily sat very still. Her calm had a sharp edge now. Richard clicked to the next slide. Bullet points appeared. Limit alcohol consumption. Maintain respectful behavior. Avoid personal entanglements. Noah felt the air in the room go tight. It was not the advice that bothered him. It was the way Richard delivered it, like the office was a classroom and he had just discovered everyone was disappointing. Richard smiled as if smiles could soften judgment. This is not about blame. It is about growth and learning. And ensuring our events remain inclusive and safe. Emily raised her hand slightly, and Richard stopped with the enthusiasm of a man who enjoyed being engaged with. Yes, Emily. Emily kept her voice calm, but it carried. If this is about last week, a public slide deck is not the most supportive approach. People process differently. Some people might feel singled out. Richard blinked, his smile held, then shifted. Noted. I just want us all to be on the same page, Jordan spoke gently, not challenging, just steering. A reminder email might have done that without putting anyone on display. Richard laughed lightly. Fair point. I am learning too. Noah watched Richard and thought about how bosses love to learn out loud, preferably while someone else paid the tuition. The meeting ended. People filed out quietly. Ben looked like he wanted to crawl into a file cabinet and live there. In the hallway, Ben caught up to Noah. I hate that. I hate that he did a whole presentation. Noah nodded. He likes a theme. Ben lowered his voice. People are going to think it was me. Mia walked by at that moment and did not slow down. It was you. It was also everyone. That is how parties work. Ben winced. I am going to bring celery to New Year Eve. Like real celery, Noah nodded solemnly. Bring celery, bring humility, bring a mouth that stays closed, Ben sighed. I can do 2 out of 3. By Thursday, the office felt slightly lighter. Not because anything was fixed, but because people had stopped trying to pretend they were not tired. The tension moved from sharp to dull. Dull was progress. Noah got an email from Richard confirming he would attend New Year Eve and repeating that he had a surprise. Richard described it as heartwarming and festive. Noah did not know how to tell a man like Richard that heartwarming was often a threat. Noah replied with a polite line about looking forward to it and a gentle note that the evening would be low-key. He added a sentence about no speeches. He stared at the sentence, then added another about no presentations. Then he deleted that one because sarcasm was not a workplace-safe language when directed upward. That evening, Noah looked around his apartment. It was small, warm and tidy enough. A couch, a coffee table, plants that survived his care through stubbornness, string lights he rarely used because he did not want to admit he liked softness. He imagined New Year Eve, friends arriving with snacks, coats piled by the door, Ben trying to be helpful and getting in the way, Mia watching him like a lifeguard, Jordan settling into the calm center of the room, Emily bringing dessert and also bringing the authority of a person who could stop a disaster with a look. He imagined Claire arriving and the room shifting, not because anyone would judge her, but because everyone would try too hard not to. He imagined Luke arriving and shifting it again, trying to be normal with the intensity of a man holding a fragile plate. Noah opened a notebook and wrote a list. Ice, cups, games, food, soft music, water. No heavy drinking, no surprise speeches. He stared at the last line and felt a quiet laugh rise in his chest. No surprises was the kind of rule that invited the universe to test you. Still, Noah thought, better to gather in a warm room than to drift apart in cold silence. Better to try a new memory than to let the old one become the only story anyone told. He closed the notebook and turned on the string lights. The room softened immediately. It looked like a place where people might be able to breathe. Noah stood there for a moment and let himself believe in small repairs. Not perfect ones, not dramatic ones, just the kind that happened when people showed up and tried to be kind on purpose. Chapter 3: Secret Santa with Real Consequences. By Thursday morning, the office had settled into a new rhythm, the kind people invented when they wanted to move forward without agreeing on what forward meant. The garland still blinked at reception. The cinnamon smell still tried its best. The break room still had a bowl of candy that looked like it had been donated by someone who disliked joy but respected tradition. Noah arrived early and found Mia at her desk with a small stack of envelopes. She held them between two fingers like it might bite. Ben wandered over with the hopeful recklessness of a man who believed paper could only bring good news. Secret Santa cards, Mia looked up slowly. If it is the kind where the gift is consequences, Ben laughed once, then stopped when he realized she was not joking. Noah set his mug down and leaned in slightly. What happened? Mia lowered her voice. I noticed something the night of the party. I did not mention it because I did not want it to become a story. Stories are what this place eats for lunch. Ben looked nervous. We are not supposed to feed it. Correct. So listen carefully and then do nothing with this. Noah nodded. Ben nodded too hard. Mia kept her eyes on Noah, as if selecting the person least likely to turn a detail into fireworks. After people started leaving on Thursday, I went back to conference room B to get my charger. The one I keep in that drawer because the building is made of outlets that do not work. Noah nodded. The outlet situation at Hollis and Pike was a long-running tragedy with no resolution arc. Mia continued. On a chair by the window there was a coat. Claire coat. Ben blinked. People forget coats. Yes, people forget coats. This coat was not forgotten. It was placed like someone took it off quickly and then did not come back for it. Noah felt a small tightening in his chest. He kept his face calm. What else? Mia exhaled through her nose like this part tasted bad. Luke's phone was on the same chair. Face down, screen lit up when I picked it up. Ben stared at her. You picked it up? To hand it to him? Because I am not a monster and I do not want Richard discovering lost property and turning it into a leadership journey. Noah waited. Mia spoke carefully. The screen showed a message thread. Claire name at the top. A preview line popped up. It was short. Ben leaned forward like he could catch the sentence before it landed. Mia glanced at him, and Ben leaned back immediately. It said, "Are you awake?" Noah did not move. He let the silence sit for a beat, because silence was safer than interpretation. That could mean anything. Mia nodded, relieved to hear sanity. Exactly. It could mean, "Are you home safe?" It could mean, "Do you need a ride?" It could mean, "I found your keys." It could mean something innocent. It could also mean something that is none of our business. Ben rubbed his forehead. "Everything is my business by accident." Mia gave him a look. "Make it less so." Jordan appeared at the edge of their cluster, with his scarf still on, calm, as if he had stepped out of a meditation app. "Morning. Why does the air feel like gossip?" Mia straightened. "Because I just told Noah a detail that I do not want repeated." Jordan looked at Noah, then at Mia. "Does repeating it help anyone?" Mia answered without hesitation. "No." Jordan nodded once. "Then we do not repeat it." Ben raised 2 fingers like he was taking an oath. "I will not repeat it. I will not even hint at it. I will become a vault." Mia looked at him with quiet doubt. "You are more like a drawer that does not close all the way." Ben accepted that with a sigh. "Fair." Noah kept his voice low. "Did you tell Luke I handed him the phone the next day? I did not mention the coat. I did not mention the message." He looked like someone had been tapped on the shoulder by reality. Noah pictured Luke on Friday. Polite smile, careful eyes. The way Luke had arrived this week like he was carrying something fragile. Mia set the envelopes down. "That is all. That is the whole detail. It is not proof of anything. It is not a scandal. It is just a thing I saw, and I want it handled with care." Noah nodded. "It will be." Ben nodded too. "I will handle it with care and silence and also maybe therapy." Mia's expression softened a fraction. "Good. Now go back to your desk before I become mean as a hobby." Ben drifted away with the defeated grace of a man trying to grow. Noah watched him go, then looked at Mia. "Thank you for telling me. I will keep it quiet." Mia nodded once, then turned back to her screen like she had just closed a door. The day moved on like it did not know it was carrying delicate things. Later that morning, the team gathered in conference room A for a client call. The client was cheerful on a screen, talking about engagement and brand voice, and how they wanted to feel bold but not too bold. Noah took notes and nodded at the right times. He had practiced professional agreement like it was a sport. Across the table, Emily listened with calm focus, occasionally asking questions that pulled clarity out of nonsense. Jordan stayed steady, the quiet anchor that made meetings feel less like storms. Ben tried to look serious and occasionally succeeded. Mia stared at the screen like she could edit the client personality with her eyes. Claire sat with her notebook open and her pen poised, posture a little tight. Luke sat 2 chairs away, hands clasped, face neutral. They both looked like they were trying to be normal at the same time, which made normal feel like something that required effort. When the call ended, Richard clapped once, bright and pleased with himself. "Great work, team. Love the alignment. Love the energy." Emily began collecting papers. "We are on track. I will send action items." Richard smiled like a man receiving applause internally. "Perfect. And while we are all together, quick note about our culture." Noah felt his stomach sink. Richard and culture were never quick. Richard continued with warm confidence. "I've been thinking about Thursday, about how we show up for each other, about how we can improve." Emily paused, still holding her notebook. "Richard, we already addressed that." Richard lifted his hands, gentle and dramatic. "Not a lecture, a reflection." A nudge. Ben's face went pale. A nudge from Richard was never small. Richard clicked his laptop and a slide appeared. It was titled "Holiday Cheer, Year-Round Professionalism." Noah hated it immediately. Richard spoke with warmth that did not fully hide the judgment underneath. "We want our workplace to feel safe and inclusive. That means being mindful of personal boundaries. That means avoiding comments that could be taken the wrong way. That means being careful with alcohol at company events." Ben stared at the table like the table was giving him disappointing feedback. Richard kept going. And it means remembering that personal choices can create ripple effects, not just for you, but for the whole team. Noah saw Claire's shoulders tighten. He saw Luke look down, jaw set. Noah could almost hear the thought forming in the room, the thought nobody wanted to say out loud. The thought that Richard had taken something private and tried to make it a general lesson, which always landed like a public warning. Richard smiled as if a smile could soften it. This is not about blame. This is about growth. I just want it all on the same page. Emily's voice stayed calm, but it carried. A public slide deck can feel like public shaming, even when you do not mean it that way. People process differently. People have handled things privately. Let us not turn it into a spectacle. The room went quiet in the way a room went quiet when someone said the real thing with a gentle voice. Richard blinked. His smile held, then shifted. Of course. Of course. Always appreciate your thoughtful leadership, Emily Jordan added, softly, not piling on, just steadying. A short email reminder about future events could do the job without making anyone feel watched. Richard laughed lightly. Great suggestion. I am learning too. Noah watched Richard and thought about how bosses loved to learn out loud, especially when learning made them the center of the room. The meeting ended. People filed out with careful politeness, like they had just toured a museum exhibit titled How Not to Help. In the hallway, Ben caught up to Noah, voice low and urgent. He made it worse. He made it official. Noah nodded. He likes being official. Ben looked stricken. Everyone is going to assume it was me. Mia walked past without slowing. It was you sometimes. It was also not just you. That is how parties work, Ben winced. I am going to become a monk until New Year Eve. Noah looked at him. A monk with chips. Ben nodded. A monk with chips. Noah returned to his desk and found Jordan standing nearby, hands in pockets, expression neutral. What is the gossip level now? Jordan answered, like someone reading weather. Rising. The slide deck gave people permission to talk. They will pretend it is concern, but concern is often just curiosity wearing a nicer coat. Noah kept his voice low. Are Claire and Luke being mentioned? Jordan hesitated, then nodded once. Not directly, not by name in most cases. But people have started outlining a story. They have the shape of it. They will fill in details with imagination. Noah felt a quiet anger. Not loud, not hot, cold anger that wanted to protect. Claire does not deserve that, no, she does not. Noah glanced across the office. Claire was typing, gaze fixed on her screen, like the work could hold her together. Luke was at his desk, shoulders slightly hunched, staring at a draft email like it had personally attacked him. Noah stood and walked to the coffee area, then paused when he saw Claire stand at the same time. She moved toward the sink with an empty cup, doing a task that did not need to be done yet. Luke stood too, then sat back down, then stood again. It was like his body did not know what would be safe. Noah felt the old impulse to fix it, the impulse that had never really helped anyone. Claire finished rinsing her cup and turned. Noah was there, not blocking, not hovering, just present. You doing okay today? Claire blinked as if she had been pulled out of a deep thought. Yes, just busy. Busy as a polite word, Claire's smile flickered. It is my favorite polite word. Noah chose his next words carefully. If the office feels weird, it is not your job to carry it. Claire looked down for a moment, then back up. It feels like everyone is trying not to look at me, which somehow still feels like looking at me. Noah nodded. That was exactly how it worked. New Year Eve at my place will be normal. Normal like boring, snacks and games and no speeches, Claire exhaled. A small release. That sounds good. Noah kept his tone light. Ben is on probation from creating new traditions. Claire's smile appeared more fully this time, small but real. Good. Luke walked up then, holding his mug with both hands. He stopped a respectful distance away, eyes on the coffee machine like it was safer than faces. Hey. Claire nodded once. Hey. A pause settled. Not hostile, just full. Noah gave them both a gentle exit. I was just about to refill. You both want anything? Claire shook her head. No thanks, Luke swallowed. I am good. Noah filled his mug slowly, giving them room without making it obvious. When he turned, Claire had already stepped away, moving back toward her desk with careful calm. Luke watched her go for half a beat, then looked down at his mug. Noah kept his voice quiet. "You all right?" Luke's answer came after a small pause. "I am trying to be." That was honest enough. Later that afternoon, Ben made the mistake everyone feared. It was not dramatic. It was not malicious. It was the kind of mistake that happened when a person used humor as oxygen and then forgot to breathe quietly. Noah was walking past the copy room when he heard Ben's voice, slightly too animated. "I am just saying, if anyone asks, I do not know anything. And even if I did know something, which I do not, I would not say it, because I am mature now." Noah stopped. Mia's voice followed, sharp and low. "Who are you talking to?" Ben's voice became smaller. Tanya from Accounts Payable. Noah peeked into the copy room. Ben stood near the copier. Tanya stood near the door holding a folder, eyebrows raised. Mia stood between them, expression tight. Tanya looked amused. "I did not ask anything. I just asked if you were okay after the party." Ben nodded rapidly. "Yes. Great. I am fine. I did not see anything. I did not hear anything. I did not carry anyone anywhere. I did not sing." Tanya's eyebrows climbed higher. "Okay." Mia stepped closer to Ben, voice calm in a way that sounded dangerous. "Ben, stop talking." Ben pressed his lips together like he was trying to physically hold in words. Noah stepped in and kept his tone light, like this was normal office life and not a small disaster. "Hey Ben, Emily needs you for a minute." Ben nodded gratefully, as if being summoned by Emily was a rescue boat. "Yes. Great. Going right now." He escaped. Tanya looked at Noah, then at Mia. He always like that. Mia smiled politely, which was a rare event. Only when he is awake, Tanya laughed once and walked out. The laugh did not sound cruel. It sounded like amusement turning into interest, which was how gossip began. Mia turned to Noah, eyes narrowed. "He is going to ruin everything with his mouth," Noah sighed. "He is trying. His trying is loud." Mia folded her arms. "New Year Eve needs rules." Noah nodded slowly. I know Mia's voice softened just a fraction. "Not harsh rules, just guardrails. People are tired. People are sensitive. People are looking for something to hold on to." Noah thought of Claire's careful posture, Luke's quiet shame, Emily's steady leadership, Jordan's calm warnings, Ben's accidental fireworks, Richard's slide deck. The office was a small machine that turned private moments into public stories if you fed it even a crumb. New Year Eve needed to be a different machine, one that turned snacks into comfort and silence into safety. Noah looked at Mia. "I will handle it. I will host like a man who has learned fear." Mia nodded, satisfied. "Good. Be afraid in a productive way, Lunralines." That evening Noah went home and stood in his apartment with the string lights on. The room looked softer than the week had felt. He opened his notebook and wrote a list of what the night needed. Warm food, simple games, gentle music, water everywhere, no pressure, no spotlight, no surprise speeches, no dramatic apologies in front of everyone, no jokes that sound like they are aiming for someone's ribs. He stared at the list and realized he was writing a party plan, and also a small moral code. Noah closed the notebook and sat on his couch. He could not fix what happened on Thursday. He could not erase gaps in memory or the awkward wait between two old friends. But he could make a room where nobody had to perform. A room where quiet did not feel like punishment. He decided that if anyone tried to turn New Year Eve into a scene, he would interrupt with snacks. If anyone tried to turn it into a confession booth, he would interrupt with a board game. If Richard tried to turn it into a leadership moment, Emily would likely unalive him politely with vocabulary. Noah leaned back and let himself believe in small repairs, not perfect ones, not cinematic ones, just small, steady ones. Chapter 4. The Rules for a Party That Is Not a Party. Friday arrived with the kind of grey daylight that made everything look honest. The office had fewer people than usual. Someone had already taken vacation. Someone else was working from home, which in this office often meant working from bed and calling it balance. Noah walked in with his notebook in his bag and his host anxiety fully activated. He did not want to be the person who brought rules to a party. He also did not want to be the person who hosted chaos and then acted surprised when chaos behaved like itself. Mia looked up as Noah passed her desk. "Did Ben speak to anyone else yesterday?" Noah slowed. "Not that I saw. But he spoke enough to create a weather system." Mia nodded, satisfied in a grim way. "Good. I have him monitored." Noah gave a small smile. "Of course you do." Emily appeared at Noah's desk a moment later, coffee in hand, expression steady. "I heard about the copy room." Noah did not bother pretending. "Ben is a walking confession booth," Emily sighed. "We will keep it calm, we will keep it private, we will keep Richard away from microphones and televisions and anything that amplifies his personality." Noah nodded. "I'm going to set expectations before New Year Eve. Not a group announcement, just small conversations, like normal human beings used to do before phones made everything a transcript." Emily's expression softened. "Good. Keep it gentle." Some people are already feeling watched, Noah thought of Claire. He thought of how the office had started turning its head whenever she moved, pretending it was not. "I will talk to her today if I can." Emily's tone became careful. "Do not make her explain anything. Just make sure she knows she is safe." Noah nodded. That was the goal. Safety without interrogation, support without spotlight. At lunch, Noah found Jordan in the break room making tea. Jordan's tea ritual was calm enough to qualify as a meditation. "How is the gossip level?" Jordan let the tea bag sink slowly, like he was lowering a thought into water, still rising. "It will fade if it gets bored, it will grow if it gets fed." Noah leaned against the counter. "Ben is not allowed to feed it." Jordan gave a small smile. "Ben has the instincts of a golden retriever. Helpful, loyal, and convinced every stranger wants to hear his life story." Noah laughed quietly. "Accurate." Jordan's expression returned to calm seriousness. "How is Claire?" Noah hesitated, holding herself together. "Which is impressive and also exhausting." Jordan nodded. "If you talk to her, make it normal. Offer something practical. People like practical. Practical feels safe." Noah stored that away. Practical. After lunch, Noah waited until the office had a lull. Claire was at her desk, working with quiet focus. Her hair was tucked behind her ear, a small detail that made her look younger, like the version of her from before the week decided to be heavy. Noah walked over slowly, not sneaking, not looming, just approaching like a person. "Hey, quick question." Claire looked up, eyes alert. "Sure, for New Year Eve, do you have any food things? Allergies, dislikes, anything that makes a snack become a regret?" Claire blinked, then her expression softened. "Practical, safe, no allergies." Noah nodded with solemn respect. Olives are controversial. Understood. Claire let out a small laugh, then pressed her lips together, as if surprised she had done it. "Thanks for asking." Noah kept his tone casual. "Also, just so you know, the plan is boring. Games, music, no speeches, no forced fun. You can leave early if you want, you can sit quietly if you want. Nobody is going to make a thing out of anything." Claire held his gaze for a moment. Her eyes looked tired, but grateful. "That sounds perfect." Noah nodded once. "Good. I want it to feel easy." Claire's voice became quieter. "It has not felt easy lately." Noah did not argue. He did not deny it. He simply offered a small truth. "Then we will build done easy night, even if it is the only easy night this week." Claire swallowed and nodded. Then she looked back down at her screen, but her shoulders had relaxed by a fraction. Noah walked away feeling both relieved and sad. Relieved because she had not pulled away, sad because she had needed permission to breathe. Later, Luke found Noah near the coffee machine again. The coffee machine had become the unofficial counseling center of the office, mostly because it was the only place where people could stand side by side and avoid eye contact. Luke held a cup of tea. "You talked to Claire." Noah kept his voice neutral. "I asked about food. I told her the night will be boring in a good way." Luke nodded slowly. "Good. She needs boring." Noah watched Luke's face. Luke looked tired in a different way than Claire. Claire looked like she was carrying the weight of attention. Luke looked like he was carrying the weight of guilt. Luke spoke again, voice low. "I do not want to make it harder for her." "Then do not. Keep it simple. Be kind. Let her lead. Luke's jaw tightened. I have been trying to do that, and it still feels like my presence is a problem. Noah considered his words. Luke was not a villain. Luke was a person who made a mistake in a room full of alcohol and noise and old friendship. Mistakes were not rare. Handling them well was rare. Your presence is not a problem. Your choices can be, but you can choose differently now. Luke nodded, accepting it like medicine. I am not drinking at New Year Eve. Not at all, Noah nodded. Good. Luke hesitated, then added, and if she does not want to talk to me, I will not push. I will just be normal. Quiet. Helpful. Noah almost smiled. You. Quiet. That will be a new era. Luke gave a weak grin. I contain multitudes. Noah watched him walk away and thought, maybe he did, or maybe he just wanted to. That afternoon, Ben made a sincere effort to behave. It was almost impressive. He stayed at his desk, he drank water, he spoke only where spoken to, and even then he looked like he was biting down on a sentence. Mia walked past him once and paused. Are you feeling okay? Ben nodded. I am practicing restraint. Mia's expression was cautious. Do not over-practice. You might faint. Ben's face twisted. I cannot win with you. Mia's voice was calm. You can. You just have to stop competing. Ben looked at her for a beat, then nodded like a person learning something inconvenient. Okay, fine. I will stop. Noah admired that moment more than he expected. Growth was quiet. It also looked uncomfortable. Near the end of the day, Richard appeared at Noah's desk like a festive ghost. Noah looked up and prepared his soul. Richard smiled brightly. I'm excited for New Year Eve. Great initiative. Great team bonding. Noah kept his voice polite. It will be low-key. Richard waved a hand. Of course. Low-key? Cozy? Calm? Noah watched Richard's face. Richard looked too excited for calm. About your surprise. Richard's smile widened. Yes. Noah chose his words like he was defusing a holiday ornament. Just a reminder, I am trying to keep the night simple. No speeches, no presentations, no activities that make anyone feel like they are at work. Richard laughed lightly. Noah, you worry too much. My surprise is not work. It is festive. Noah tried again, gentler. Festive is fine, but I want to avoid anything that puts people on the spot. Richard blinked, then nodded. Of course. I would never put anyone on the spot. Noah did not believe him, but he appreciated the sentence anyway. Great. Thank you. Richard leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. You are going to love it. It is heartwarming. Noah's stomach sank, but he kept his face calm. I am sure it will be. Richard straightened. See you then. And Noah, thank you for creating a safe space. Then he walked away, leaving Noah with the eerie feeling of having just been hugged by a motivational poster. When work ended, Noah went home and did the kind of preparation that looked like cleaning but was actually anxiety management. He vacuumed the rug, he wiped the counters, he arranged coasters like they were a security system, he tested the string lights, he played soft music at a low volume and adjusted it twice, as if the right song could prevent awkwardness. He opened his notebook again and rewrote his list, not as rules but as intentions. Warm lighting, comfortable seats, food that feels like care, drinks that do not erase judgment, games that do not create enemies, conversations that can stay light, silence that can stay safe. He paused, then added one more line. No rescues unless someone asks. Noah had a habit of rescuing. He rescued with jokes, with distractions, with sudden topics, with snacks. Sometimes rescues helped. Sometimes they just told people they could not handle their own feelings. He did not want to do that to Claire. He did not want to do that to Luke either. If Claire and Luke needed to talk, they would. If they did not, they would not. The room would hold them either way. Noah stood by the window and looked out at the street. Snow had not fully arrived yet, but the air had that expectant weight, like winter was standing behind a door with its hand on the knob. He thought about the holiday party again, but only in outline. Loud music, plastic cups, people trying too hard, a coat on a chair, a phone face down, a moment that slipped away and left question in its wake. He could not change it, but he could change what came next. In the quiet of his apartment, Noah made a final decision. If the night started to tilt, he would not wait for it to fall. He would steer it gently back. Not with control, with care, with humor, with snacks, with a simple, steady tone that reminded everyone they were allowed to be human without being a spectacle. Noah turned off the overhead light and left only the string lights on. The room looked softer immediately. It looked like somewhere people could sit without being watched. He took a breath and let himself feel ready, not for perfection, but for presence. Chapter 5. The surprise is always a bad idea. The week between Christmas and New Year had a strange texture. Time did not feel like time. It felt like a waiting room with tinsel. The office was half-staffed and half awake. People drifted in later than usual and made coffee like it was a sacred ritual. Emails slowed down, not because the world had become kinder, but because decision-makers were away pretending they did not own inboxes. Hollis and Pike looked peaceful from a distance. Up close, it still carried the quiet aftertaste of last Thursday. The garland blinked at reception like it had been asked to lie for the building. The candy bowl remained full, which felt like a sign that nobody trusted themselves. Noah did his work. He wrote copy, he revised slides, he answered questions that could have been answered by reading the subject line. He did all the normal office things that kept the machine moving. Under the normal, he watched people. Claire moved through the days like she was trying to be invisible without disappearing. She greeted people politely, she kept her head down, she laughed once or twice at the right moments, but the laughter sounded careful, like it had been checked for sharp edges. Luke was quieter than usual. He drank tea instead of coffee, he stayed busy. He volunteered for small tasks that helped other people. It was the kind of behavior that could mean guilt or growth. In Luke, it was likely both. Ben tried to reform himself with a sincerity that was almost sweet. He brought celery on Monday and looked offended when nobody applauded. Mia looked at the celery, looked at Ben and gave him a nod that was almost respect. Emily kept the team on track and kept Richard at a healthy distance from anything that could turn into a speech. She did it with calm efficiency and a smile that never fully invited argument. Jordan stayed steady. He did not gossip. He did not stir. He kept an eye on the room like someone who understood that quiet problems often made the loudest messes later. On Wednesday afternoon, Richard stopped by Noah's desk again. Richard looked cheerful in the way people looked cheerful when they had plans. Noah. Quick question. Noah looked up and prepared his polite face. Sure, Richard leaned one elbow on the partition like he was visiting a friend and not supervising a department. New Year Eve. Are we doing a countdown? Like a formal moment, Noah kept his voice even. We will probably count down in a normal way. Snacks, game, maybe music low, then midnight, then people go home and get rest. Richard smiled brightly. So we are doing a moment. Noah felt a small internal sigh. A moment is fine, a production is not. Richard waved a hand. No production, just a little something, a little warmth. People need warmth. Noah looked at Richard and wondered if the man had ever offered warmth without a spotlight attached. You keep saying surprise. What kind of surprise is it? Richard's smile widened. It is heartfelt. It is a celebration of our team. Noah kept his tone polite and firm. That sounds like a speech. Richard laughed. No, not a speech, more like a tribute. Noah felt his soul sit down. Please do not tribute anyone in my living room. Richard blinked, then smiled like he was amused. Noah, you are funny. Do not worry. It will be tasteful. Noah did not know how to explain that tasteful was not a reliable adjective when used by a man who owned 3 scarves and a slide deck. Richard patted the partition and walked away, leaving Noah staring at his computer screen like it had just delivered a threat in corporate language. That evening, Noah texted Emily and asked if she had a minute to talk. Not a group chat, just one person to another, like civilization used to function. They met by the coffee machine, because the coffee machine had become neutral territory. Richard is planning something. Emily did not look surprised. He is always planning something. He used the word tribute. Emily closed her eyes for a beat, then opened them with calm determination. Okay, then we will manage the tribute. We will keep it short, we will keep it gentle, and we will redirect if needed. Noah hesitated. I do not want anyone put on the spot, especially not Claire. Emily's gaze softened. Neither do I. I will talk to Richard directly. I will tell him, politely, that his surprise needs to focus on general goodwill and not individuals. If he argues, I will remind him that he is attending as a guest, not as management. Noah felt a small wave of relief. Thank you, Emily. Took a sip of coffee. Also, Noah, you are doing a lot of emotional hosting already. Make sure you do not become the entire support system for this group, Noah almost laughed. I do not know how to do that. Learn. New Year is about growth. Unfortunately, Noah walked away thinking that growth was inconvenient and also necessary, which was the theme of his life and the theme of winter. The next day, Claire and Luke both took lunch at the same time, which felt like an accident that had been arranged by fate and anxiety. Noah saw them leave separately, coats on, heads down, then noticed them meet outside by the corner as if they had planned to pretend they had not planned. Noah did not follow, he did not hover, he did not rescue. He went back to his desk and tried to work. He still wondered, though. The week had created a soft tension that hummed beneath every conversation. Claire and Luke were the center of it, not because they wanted to be, but because people were bad at leaving other people alone. Later, Jordan stopped by Noah's desk with a file in hand. You look like you are thinking too hard, Noah kept his voice low. Claire and Luke went for a walk. I hope it helps, Jordan nodded. It will help if they can talk without trying to protect everyone else. Noah exhaled. Everyone keeps trying to protect everyone else. It is exhausting. Jordan gave a small smile. It is also how you know they care. Noah looked down at his notes, then back up. Richard is bringing a tribute. Jordan's smile faded into calm concern. Of course he is. Emily is handling it. Jordan nodded. Good. Because if you try to handle it, you will end up hosting and refereeing and cleaning up feelings at the same time. Noah grimaced. I hate how accurate you are. Jordan's voice stayed gentle. Accuracy is my thing. It is why people tell me things and then regret it. Noah returned to work, but his mind kept drifting to the river and whatever conversation was happening out there. Claire and Luke walked along the Chicago River, the water dark and slow, carrying winter reflections like it was tired of holding them. The air was cold enough to make every breath visible. The city looked sharp at the edges, buildings rising like quiet decisions. They kept a small distance between them at first, like they were walking in parallel lives. Claire tucked her hands into her coat pockets and watched the river. This weather is rude. Luke nodded. Chicago loves honesty. It shows you exactly what it is. Claire gave a small laugh. Then, it is being very clear, they walked a little farther. People passed them with scarves and purpose, as if nobody had ever had an awkward week in their life. Luke slowed and looked ahead, not at Claire but near her, like his eyes wanted to be respectful. I have been trying to find the right words. Claire's shoulders tightened, then relaxed slightly. I do not need perfect words, I need simple ones. Luke swallowed. I am sorry. Claire did not respond right away. The river kept moving. A gust of wind pushed at their coats like it was impatient. Luke spoke again, softer. I am sorry I drank too much. I am sorry I put you in a position you did not ask for. I am sorry I made things feel weird. I do not want you to feel watched or whispered about. Claire looked at him then. Her eyes were tired but steady. I do feel watched. Luke flinched. I know. I hate that. Claire exhaled slowly. It is not only you. Ben and his mouth did not help. Richard and his slide decks did not help. People filling in blanks did not help. But yes, you are part of it. Luke nodded, accepting it without arguing. Claire continued, voice calm but firm. I care about you. That is the problem, and also not the problem. We have been friends a long time. I do not want our friendship to become a rumor. Luke's jaw tightened. Neither do I. Claire looked back at the river. I also do not want to pretend nothing happened. Pretending makes it heavier, Luke nodded again. What do you want then? Claire thought for a moment. Her breath made a small cloud that faded quickly. I want boundaries. I want you to stop trying to be heroic about it. I want us to be normal friends again, slowly. I want you to not drink like that again around me. And I want you to not treat me like a fragile object you have to protect. Luke absorbed that, then spoke carefully. Okay, boundaries, normal, slowly. No heroic acts. Claire's mouth twitched. Good, because you are not good at heroic acts. You are good at jokes and helping people move couches. Luke managed a small smile. I am excellent at couches. Claire's voice softened a fraction. And I want to be able to show up at New Year Eve without feeling like everyone is waiting for a scene. Luke nodded. Then we will not give them when. Claire looked at him, steady. That means you do not hover, you do not follow me around the room, you do not try to have a big talk in front of everyone. If we talk, it is quiet and private and only if it feels right. Luke nodded again, serious. Understood. They walked a little farther. The city noise was muted by cold. The river made everything feel slower. Luke spoke again after a pause. One more thing. Claire glanced at him. Luke's voice was careful, like he was holding something that could break. That night I felt like I was leaning on you too much, like I was making you responsible for me. That is not fair. I do not want you to be my lifeline when I am being reckless. Claire's eyes softened, but she kept her firmness. Then do not be reckless. Luke nodded. I am trying. Claire stopped walking. Luke stopped too. They stood near the rail, winter air between them. Claire spoke quietly. I am not angry at you the way people think I should be. I am tired. And I am embarrassed. And I am sad that our friendship got dragged into the office like a piece of gossip candy. Luke looked down. I am embarrassed too. Claire gave a small, dry smile. That is the first thing we have in common this week. Luke let out a short laugh. We have more than that. Claire looked at him and held the gaze a moment longer than she had all week. Yes, we do. They started walking again. The distance between them was still there, but it felt chosen now, not forced. That was a kind of progress. Back at the office, Noah noticed both of them return with calmer faces, like something had been said that did not fix everything but made it less sharp. That evening, Noah sat at his kitchen table and made a shopping list. He wrote chips, salsa, cheese, crackers, fruit, sparkling water, more sparkling water, and then paused. He wrote more item. Napkins. He did not know why napkins felt important, but they did. Maybe because napkins were small and practical things made chaos feel less inevitable. Noah looked at the list and thought about Richard and his tribute, Ben and his mouth, Mia and her vigilance, Emily and her calm authority, Jordan and his steady wisdom, and Claire and Luke walking by the river trying to be human. New Year Eve was approaching, the year was ending. The group was still together, somehow. Noah hoped the next memory would be softer. Chapter 6. New Year Eve arrives with snow and subtext. New Year Eve arrived quietly, like it did not want to draw attention to itself. The snow started in the late afternoon, thin flakes drifting down with slow confidence. The city lights turned the air into something soft and cinematic, like Chicago had decided to pretend it was gentle for night. Noah spent the afternoon preparing his apartment the way people prepared altars. Not religious, just deeply serious. He cleaned surfaces that were already clean. He arranged snacks like they were doing a job interview. He placed coasters in clusters, then moved them back. He turned on the string lights and left the overhead light off. The room looked warmer immediately. Soft shadows settled in corners. The plants looked like they were attending. Noah put on music that was low and steady, nothing that demanded attention. He wanted the room to feel like it had a heartbeat, not a pulse. At 6, he opened the window for a moment to cool the air and let out the smell of fresh salsa, then closed it quickly because winter was not a guest you invited in lightly. He checked the time, then stopped checking the time, because checking the time made him feel like a man waiting for a test result. The first knock came just after 7. Noah opened the door to Jordan, coat dusted with snow, carrying a board game and a small bag of something that smelled like baked bread. Jordan stepped inside and took his boots off neatly, like his mother could see him. "Your place looks calm." "That is the goal." Calm and unremarkable Jordan glanced at the snacks. "You planned like a person who expects weather." Noah shrugged. "I expect people." Jordan gave a small smile and set the game on the table. "I brought something cooperative. No winners, no losers. Only shared mild stress. Perfect. Shared mild stress is our brand." Another knock came. Emily arrived with a dessert box balanced in her hands and a second bag that looked suspiciously like backup. Noah took the box. "Is that what I think it is?" Emily brushed snow off her coat. "Yes, and the second one is in case Ben touches the first," and Noah laughed quietly. "You are prepared." Emily stepped into the living room and took in the lights, the music, the soft atmosphere. "This is good. This feels like a place where nobody has to perform." "That is the plan." Emily's expression shifted into something more serious. "Remember, if Richard tries to turn this into anything, I will stop it." Noah felt relief wash over him. "Thank you, Emily." Set the desserts down and looked at the table. "Also, you have coasters. That is a sign of mental stability. Do not spread that rumor." The next knock was louder, like the door was being greeted by a man who did not understand doors were delicate. Ben burst in with a bag of chips, a bag of something green, and the excited expression of someone who had promised to behave and then remembered he was alive. "Happy New Year Eve." Noah held up a hand. "Shoes." Ben froze, then laughed nervously. "Right. Shoes. Adult behavior." He kicked his boots off with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Emily watched him with steady disapproval, like a gentle referee. Ben held up the green bag. "I brought celery." Mia walked in behind Ben, carrying a neat stack of napkins and a small container of dip. "He brought celery. I witnessed it. Mark the calendar." Ben looked offended. "Why does nobody celebrate my growth?" Mia hung her coat and glanced around the room. "Because growth is supposed to be quiet," Ben sighed. "Everything good I do is punished." Noah took the dip from Mia and set it on the table. "You are not punished, you are supervised." Mia nodded. "Correct." The group settled into the living room. Jordan set up the game. Emily arranged dessert like she was creating a safe zone. Mia put the napkins where they could be reached quickly, which Noah suspected was a subtle emergency plan. Ben hovered by the snacks with a serious face. "I will not make jokes that hurt anyone tonight." Mia looked at him. "Thank you." "Speak that sentence again every time you feel inspired." Ben nodded as if he had been given a sacred ritual. Noah checked the time again. He stopped himself and went to the kitchen to refill a bowl. Hosting gave him tasks, and tasks gave him sanity. The next knock came at 7:45. Noah opened the door and found Claire standing there with snow on her shoulders and a small bag in her hand. Her cheeks were pink from cold. Her eyes were clear, careful, and brave. "Hey," Noah stepped aside. "Come in." Claire took off her boots slowly, like she did not want to make noise. Noah took her coat and hung it up, careful not to treat it like anything symbolic. Claire stepped into the living room. The room shifted in a subtle way, not because anyone stared, because everyone tried very hard not to. Emily walked over first, calm and warm. "I am glad you came." Claire's smile was small but real. "Me too." Jordan gave Claire a gentle nod. "Good to see you." Ben lifted a hand like a child in class and remembered he did not need to be that intense. "Hi, welcome. I will be normal." Mia looked at Ben. "Try less," announcing Ben lowered his hand. "Understood." Claire laughed softly, and the room breathed out. The tension did not vanish, but it softened, like a knot loosening one thread at a time. Noah offered Claire a drink. "Sparkling water, tea, or something that tastes like regret but does not contain alcohol." Claire smiled. "Sparkling water, please." Noah handed it over and watched her settle onto the couch near Emily, posture a little guarded but not closed. The next knock came at 8:10. Noah opened the door and found Luke standing there with a paper bag in hand and a six-pack of sparkling water in the other. Snow clung to his coat. His expression was calm, but his eyes looked like they were measuring every possible mistake. Hey, Noah stepped aside. Come in. Luke took off his boots and looked up, as if bracing for a spotlight that did not exist. Noah kept his tone casual. Thanks for bringing supplies. Luke held up the bag, snacks, and sparkling water. I'm committing to the theme, Noah nodded. Good. Luke stepped into the living room. The room shifted again, a quiet ripple. Claire looked up. Luke looked toward her, then stopped himself and looked toward the snacks instead, like snacks were safe. Mia watched him with the calm attention of a lifeguard. Emily gave Luke a small nod, polite and neutral. Luke moved toward the table and set the bag down. Ben stepped closer immediately. I also brought celery. Luke blinked. That is impressive. Ben looked proud. Thank you. Claire spoke from the couch, voice light. I feel like we are building an ark. Ben looked excited. Yes. We will survive the flood of feelings. Mia stared at him. Ben. Ben stopped. Sorry. Luke glanced at Claire. Claire met his eyes briefly and then looked away, not cold, just careful. Luke looked like he had been given a set of instructions and intended to follow them perfectly. Noah guided the group toward the game, cooperative, simple, shared mild stress. They played, they ate, they laughed in small places. The humor stayed light. Nobody pushed for big conversations. The room began to feel like a room again, not a stage. Then came the next knock, later than the rest, with the confidence of someone who assumed he would be welcomed. Noah opened the door and found Richard standing there. Scarf perfectly arranged, snow dusting his shoulders like he had been styled by winter itself. He held a gift bag and a rolled-up poster tube, which immediately made Noah uneasy. Happy New Year Eve, Noah. Noah kept his smile polite. Happy New Year Eve. Come in. Richard stepped inside and looked around the apartment as if evaluating it for team synergy. Cozy. Very cozy. Love the lighting. Feels intentional. Noah took Richard's coat and hung it up, resisting the urge to hang it outside. Richard stepped into the living room, smile wide. Hello, team. Wow, love this. This is exactly the kind of togetherness I was talking about. Ben gave a small wave like a nervous employee greeting a visiting executive, which was exactly what it was. Emily stood and walked over, calm and composed, placing herself between Richard and the center of the room like a gentle gate. Richard, glad you made it. We are keeping it low-key tonight. Richard smiled brightly. Absolutely. Low-key, calm, intimate. He patted the poster tube. My little surprise is not ready yet, but it will be later. Very tasteful. Noah felt his spine tighten. Emily kept her expression pleasant, which was how she looked right before she corrected someone. Richard set the gift bag on the table and looked around again. So, what are we doing? Games, fun, team bonding. Mia's eyes narrowed slightly. We are doing snacks and a board game. Richard nodded like he had invented snacks. Perfect. Perfect. I love this. I love when we bring the team together outside work. Emily's voice stayed gentle but firm. Tonight is not work. Tonight is friends. Richard blinked, then laughed lightly. Of course, friends. Exactly. That is what I mean. We're like a family, Ben muttered quietly, too quiet for Noah to fully hear, but Noah caught the word complicated. Noah guided everyone back into the game. Richard joined with enthusiasm and immediately tried to improve the rules. Jordan calmly redirected him. Mia watched. Emily kept her polite smile. Time moved forward. The snow outside thickened. The string lights glowed. The music stayed low. Near 9, Noah went into the kitchen to refill drinks and found Claire there leaning against the counter, staring at a plate of crackers like it held secrets. You okay? Claire nodded. Yes. Just taking a minute. Noah kept his voice soft. Take all the minutes you want. A moment later, Luke stepped into the kitchen. He stopped when he saw Claire, then hesitated. Claire glanced at him, then nodded once. Small permission. Luke walked in slowly, keeping distance, hands in his pockets. Hey, Claire's voice was quiet. Hey, Noah felt the air shift. Not dramatic, just significant. He set the pitcher down and decided this was not a moment to rescue. It was a moment to leave room. I am going to grab more cups. He stepped out, closing the kitchen door most of the way, leaving it not fully shut, not fully open, a boundary that still allowed breathing. In the living room, the game continued. Ben tried to be funny and caught himself halfway through a joke, like his brain had learned breaks. Mia looked almost proud. Emily looked relieved. Jordan looked calm. Richard watched the kitchen door a little too often. Noah sat back down and pretended he did not notice. Sometimes the best hosting was doing nothing on purpose. Chapter 7. The Kitchen Conversation That Changes the Night. The kitchen door stayed almost closed, a careful angle that let light through but kept the sound low. Noah moved around the living room like a host and a traffic controller, refilling bowls, collecting empty cups, nodding at conversations that needed encouragement, and quietly redirecting the ones that did not. In the corner, the string lights made everyone look softer than the year had felt. Outside, snow gathered against the window like it was eavesdropping. Jordan guided the board game with calm authority. Mia kept Ben from narrating every thought he had ever had. Emily sat upright on the couch with the steady posture of a person prepared to prevent a problem with one look. Richard hovered near the coffee table, smiling and nodding, offering ideas about how the game could be more strategic, which was a polite way of announcing he was not enjoying not being in charge. Noah glanced at the kitchen door again. He did not want to watch it too closely. Watching made it feel like a show. The whole point was that nobody had to perform. He picked up a stack of napkins and walked toward the hallway, a small task that gave him permission to pass the kitchen without making it a mission. Inside, Claire leaned against the counter, hands wrapped around her sparkling water. Luke stood near the sink, shoulders slightly tense, the paper bag of snacks now empty on the counter like it had done its duty. They were not facing each other fully. They were angled, like two people trying to talk and also trying not to make the talking a dramatic event. Noah slowed, then kept walking, not stopping, not intruding. The living room could hold itself for 5 minutes. The kitchen needed space. The apartment settled into a quieter rhythm. The game continued. Ben laughed once, caught himself, and turned it into a polite exhale. Mia watched him like a proud and exhausted parent. Emily leaned toward Jordan. "This game is perfect," Jordan nodded. "It gives people something to focus on that is not each other." Emily smiled faintly. "Exactly." Richard cleared his throat, loud enough to be heard, but not so loud it could be called rude. "I love the concept of cooperative play. It is very aligned with our culture." Mia looked up. "This is not a meeting, Richard." Richard laughed lightly, like he enjoyed being corrected. Of course. Just appreciating Noah returned to the couch with the napkins and set them down. He did not look toward the kitchen again. He forced himself to trust that people could handle their own conversations. In the kitchen, Luke took a slow breath. "Thank you for letting me come in here." Claire gave him a small look. "It is a kitchen. You are allowed to be in a kitchen." Luke nodded, accepting the gentle sarcasm like a warm blanket. "I did not want to corner you. I did not want you to feel like you had to talk." Claire's eyes stayed steady. "I do not feel cornered. I feel tired. There is a difference." Luke's shoulders loosened slightly. "Okay." Claire took a sip of sparkling water, then set the can down carefully, like it mattered. "I am glad you are here tonight." Luke looked surprised. His face softened. "Really?" Claire nodded once. "Yes. I am glad you are here. I is also glad you are not hovering." That helped Luke let out a small breath he had been holding. "I am trying to do what you asked. Normal." Slowly, Claire's mouth twitched. "You are doing better than I expected." Luke managed a small smile. "That is the nicest insult I have heard all year." Claire's expression softened. "It is not an insult. It is an honest report." Luke looked down at his hands. "I keep thinking about Thursday. I keep wishing I could pull it back. Like rewinding a movie." Claire's voice stayed calm. "I know. I do that too." Luke looked up. "You do?" Claire nodded. I replay it and I get annoyed with myself for being there, for staying, for not leaving earlier. Then I remember I was allowed to go to a party and not predict the future. Luke's jaw tightened. None of this is your fault, Claire held his gaze. I know. I also know you are going to say that every time we talk, and it is going to start sounding like you think I need to be convinced. Luke blinked, then nodded. Okay, fair. I will stop repeating it like a slogan. Claire gave him a small smile, then let it fade. The hard part is the office. I can handle my own feelings. I cannot handle being turned into a rumor. Luke's face tightened. I hate that. I hate that people are even thinking about it. Claire's tone stayed quiet but firm. People think about anything that gives them a break from their own lives. It is not about us, not really, but it still lands on us. Luke nodded slowly. What do you need from me, specifically? Claire appreciated the question. It was direct. It was respectful. It was practical. I need you to keep doing what you are doing tonight. Do not chase me around. Do not make us a scene. Do not try to manage other people for me. Luke nodded. Okay, Claire continued. And at work, I need you to be steady. Not guilty steady, not loud steady, just normal. The more normal we are, the faster people get bored. Luke swallowed. I can do normal. Claire raised her eyebrows. We will see. Luke smiled, then sobered again. I also need to tell you something. Because it has been sitting in my chest like a rock. Claire's shoulders tensed slightly, then relaxed. Okay. Luke spoke slowly. That night I used you as a safe place. Not in a romantic way, not in a plan, in a I am overwhelmed and you are familiar way, and that was selfish. I did not think about what it would cost you the next day. Claire listened without interrupting. Her eyes stayed steady. Luke continued. I do not want our friendship to be where I go when I am out of control. I want our friendship to be where I go when I am honest. Claire took that in. It was one of the truest things he had said. Good. Then be honest. Luke nodded. I was lonely that week. I was stressed. I was trying to keep up with Ben, and I do not even know why. I drank because it made everything feel easier. Then it made everything worse. Claire's voice stayed soft. That sounds like alcohol. Luke let out a small laugh, then shook his head. Yeah. Claire crossed her arms lightly, not defensive, just grounding. I care about you. I am not ashamed of caring about you. I am annoyed that caring got turned into a spectacle. Luke nodded. Me too. Claire looked toward the living room door, then back. Tonight feels okay. It feels like we can exist in the same room without everyone holding their breath. Luke's eyes softened. It does. Claire's voice stayed quiet. That is all I wanted. Not a grand solution. Just a night where we are not trapped in a story. Luke nodded. Then we keep it like this. Claire held his gaze a moment, then gave him a small nod. Okay. The kitchen door shifted slightly. Noah peeked in just enough to check the temperature, not enough to invade. You two good? Claire looked toward the door. Yes, we are good. Luke nodded. Good. Noah gave them a quick smile and stepped away. Back in the living room, the game had reached the part where everyone argued gently about strategy. It was the safest kind of argument. It was about cardboard pieces and imaginary stakes. Ben leaned forward, too excited. If we go left, we die. Mia stared at him. Nobody dies. It is a board game. Use another word. Ben blinked. If we go left, we lose in a disappointing way. Mia nodded. Better. Richard leaned in, enjoying himself. In business, going left can sometimes be a bold move. Emily looked at him. Richard. Richard smiled. Just saying, Noah returned with fresh cups and set them down. He watched Claire and Luke come out of the kitchen separately, as if they had coordinated it without needing to. Claire sat back near Emily. Luke sat near Jordan, not too close, not too far. The room accepted it without making it a thing, which felt like a small miracle. For a while, it worked. The tension stayed soft. The humour stayed light. The snow outside thickened, turning the city into something quieter. Then Ben made the second mistake of the week. It was not a big blowout. It was not malicious. It was a small slip. the kind that happened when a person wanted to confess and did not know they were doing it. Richard asked an innocent question. Richard always asked innocent questions with the curiosity of a man who wanted information and also wanted to look caring while he acquired it. So, how is everyone doing, really? After the holiday party and all that energy, Emily's spine stiffened slightly. Mia's eyes narrowed. Jordan stayed calm. Noah felt his pulse tick up. Ben laughed once, too fast. We are great. Fine. Everything is fine. No weirdness, no awkwardness, no drama. Definitely no rumours. No ways talking about anything. The large room went quiet. Polite quiet, but quiet all the same. Mia turned her head slowly toward Ben, then Ben's smile faltered. What Mia's voice was calm. Why did you say rumours? Ben's eyes widened, then darted toward Noah like Noah could hide him under the couch. I do not know. I said a word. Words happen. Emily spoke gently, but her tone carried weight. Ben, you are not helping. Ben looked wounded. I am trying. Mia leaned forward. Trying is not the same as succeeding, Richard blinked, suddenly interested. Rumours? Emily turned slightly toward Richard, her smile polite and firm. Richard, raised his hands. Of course. I am just concerned. As a leader and also as a friend, Mia's expression went flat. Just be a guest tonight. Noah felt his host anxiety surge. He could stop this now. He could redirect. He could rescue. He remembered his notebook. No rescues unless someone asks. Emily did not need a rescue. Mia did not need what either. They were handling it. Ben, however, looked like he was about to talk himself into the ground. Ben pressed a hand to his mouth, then lowered it slowly. Okay. I am going to do the thing where I stop. Mia nodded. Thank you. Ben looked around the room, face earnest. I just want to say, I have not told anyone anything. I have not. I made a weird comment in the copy room earlier this week, but I did not say details, because there are no details, because it is not my story, because I was trying to be respectful. Claire's shoulders tightened. Luke's jaw set. Noah felt the room tilt. Emily spoke, calm and steady, interrupting the spiral before it became a speech. Ben. Pause. Take a breath. Ben actually did. He breathed in. He breathed out. Emily continued. Thank you for trying to be respectful. The best way to be respectful now is to stop talking about it completely. Ben nodded rapidly. Yes, agreed. Done. Mia's voice softened slightly. You are not a bad person, Ben. You are just loud. Ben looked relieved and embarrassed. That is fair. Jordan spoke gently, shifting the energy. Okay, back to the game. Our imaginary community needs us. Noah watched the room follow Jordan's lead like people following a lantern down a dark path. It was not perfect, but it was safe. Claire reached for her sparkling water. Luke stared at the game board with intense focus, as if the cardboard could absolve him. Noah moved to the kitchen and brought out more snacks, because snacks were his emergency services. He placed the bowls down with quiet purpose. The room relaxed, slowly. Richard stayed quiet for a full minute, which was a record. Then he smiled again, as if he had recovered his role. Yes, back to the game. Love the teamwork. Emily looked at Richard and kept her voice even. Richard, tonight is going well. Let it keep going well, Richard nodded. Smile smaller. Of course, the night moved forward again. Not as smooth as before, but still moving. That was the trick. Keep moving. Do not let the moment harden into a story. Near 11, Noah checked the time and began preparing the midnight part without announcing it like a ceremony. He put out cups. He opened sparkling drinks. He set dessert plates on the counter. He did not want midnight to feel like a stage cue. He wanted it to feel like a gentle turn. Claire sat with Emily and Mia, listening more than speaking. Luke sat near Jordan and Noah, participating with small comments that did not seek attention. Ben behaved like a man on probation and did not complain about it, which felt like real growth. Noah looked around his apartment and felt something settle. The group was not fixed. The week was still in the room, but they were here. They were trying. The trying mattered. Chapter 8. The boss performs, and everyone survives. A few minutes before midnight, the apartment took on that specific New Year Eve feeling, the one where time becomes visible. People glanced at phones. People shifted on cushions. Someone opened a window a crack and then closed it immediately, because winter was not a guest, it was a threat. Noah kept the lights soft and the music low. He wanted the room to stay calm even as the clock approached its dramatic moment. Drama could be fun in movies. In a living room full of real feelings, drama was mostly expensive. Jordan stood near the coffee table, stacking game pieces neatly. Emily carried dessert plates from the kitchen and set them down like she was building piece one pastry at a time. Mia refilled a bowl of chips and checked on Ben with a quick glance. Ben gave her a solemn nod, like he was still committed to his probation era. Claire sat on the couch with her sparkling water. She looked more present than she had all week. Not completely relaxed, but not folded in on herself either. That alone felt like progress. Luke stood near the bookshelf, holding a cup of tea. He looked calmer too, as if the kitchen conversation had given him a place to put his thoughts. He did not hover near Claire. He did not avoid her either. He existed in the same room like it was allowed. Richard, however, looked energized. Richard was the only person in the apartment who seemed to be gaining strength from the passage of time. He checked his phone twice, then tapped the poster tube with his fingers like it was a drum. Noah noticed. Emily noticed. Mia noticed. Jordan noticed. Ben noticed and looked terrified. Richard cleared his throat, a sound that meant something was about to happen to everyone. Okay, team, friends, family. Mia's eyes narrowed slightly at family. Richard smiled brightly. Before midnight, I want to do something quick, something heartfelt, something that captures what this year has meant. Noah felt his shoulders tighten. He reached for a bowl of pretzels, preparing to throw snacks like a distraction device. Emily stood up smoothly, not rushing, not dramatic, just present. Richard, keep it short, keep it general. No one wants a spotlight tonight. Richard laughed lightly, as if he had been gently teased. Of course, general, short, just a little warmth. He set the poster tube on the floor and pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. Noah did not like the paper. The paper had the energy of prepared remark. Richard held the paper but did not read it, which made it worse because it meant he planned to perform sincerity from memory. This year I have seen so much growth, so much resilience, so much teamwork. We have faced challenges and we have come together. Ben's face tightened like he was trying not to laugh at the phrase, come together. Richard continued. And in moments where things got a little intense, I have been proud of how we handled it. With maturity, with boundaries, with respect. Claire's posture stiffened. Luke looked down. Noah felt his host anxiety flare. This was drifting toward the wrong topic. Richard had no idea how to avoid the tender bruises. He always stepped on them because he thought stepping on them proved they existed. Mia's voice cut through the air, calm and sharp. Richard, do not... Richard blinked, still smiley. Do not do or do not turn this into a lesson. Richard laughed lightly again, trying to keep control of the mood. It is not a lesson. It is a celebration. Emily stepped forward a fraction, voice steady. Then celebrate without implying anyone did something wrong. Curse. The room went quiet, not hostile, just clear. Richard's smile faltered slightly, then returned, smaller. Of course. Yes, absolutely. Noah watched Richard adjust on the fly. Richard did not like being corrected, but he did like being liked. Being liked usually won. Richard switched direction. I just want to say I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your dedication, your creativity, your hearts. Ben mouthed hearts silently and looked like he was trying to hold back a grin. Richard glanced at the poster tube as if it was calling to him. And now, my small surprise. Noah felt his soul sit down again. Richard lifted the poster tube and pulled out what looked like a rolled-up banner. He unfurled it with a flourish that suggested he had practiced. Noah expected a photo collage. He expected a printed mission statement. He expected something with the company logo and the word family in a font that tried too hard. What Richard revealed was a handmade poster board. It was covered in little printed photos from office events, team lunches, and on very unfortunate candid of Ben wearing a paper crown. At the top, in large letters, it read, Hollis and Pike, best team ever. Noah stared. It was not as bad as he feared. It was still very Richard, but it was not a weapon. It was just awkward affection. Ben leaned closer. Why do I look like that? Mia looked at him. Because you are like that, Richard beamed. I made it myself. With care, with intention. Emily's face softened despite herself. She sighed quietly, the sigh of someone realizing the threat was mostly glitter. That is very thoughtful, Richard's smile grew. Thank you. I wanted something tangible, something warm, something that reminds us we are connected. Jordan nodded politely. It is nice. Claire looked at the poster board for a moment. Her expression was hard to read. Not angry, just wary. Photos could feel like proof. They could also feel like trapping people in a narrative. Luke glanced at Claire, then looked away, keeping his place. Richard kept going, because Richard always kept going. And I also prepared a little song. Very short, just a fun moment. Noah felt the dread rise again. Song was dangerous. Emily stepped forward instantly. Richard laughed. It is festive. It is tasteful. It is only wood verse. Mia crossed her arms. We do not need a verse. Richard looked around, searching for support. Ben looked away quickly. Jordan offered a neutral expression. Noah did not move. Richard's smile softened into something almost vulnerable. I just wanted to do something kind. Emily's face softened too, but she held the boundary. Kind is good. Surprise performances are not always kind. Some people do not like being an audience. Richard blinked, taking that in. For a moment he looked almost human. Oh, Emily kept her voice gentle. If you want to be kind, be present, eat dessert, play games. Let the night be easy. Richard held the poster board like a child holding a craft project that had been politely rejected. Mia's tone stayed firm but not cruel. The poster is enough. Noah decided to help without turning it into a rescued. Richard, we can put it on the table. It is actually sweet. We do not need a performance. Richard's shoulders eased slightly. Okay. No performance. Ben nodded too eagerly. Yes, no performance. Great call. Richard shot him a look. Thank you, Ben. Ben smiled awkwardly, then stopped smiling. Richard set the poster board on the coffee table. The room breathed again. Emily turned toward the kitchen. Okay, dessert is ready. We have a few minutes. Get a plate, get comfortable, then we do a simple countdown. No speeches, no songs, no tributes. Jordan gave a small smile. I support this plan. Mia nodded. Same Noah followed Emily into the kitchen to carry plates. The small tasks helped. The room returned to normal. Not perfect normal, but human normal. Claire stood and moved toward the kitchen too. Luke did not follow. He stayed where he was, giving her space. Noah noticed and felt a quiet respect. In the kitchen, Claire took a plate and waited while Noah set forks down. You okay? Claire nodded. Yes. Just tired of being part of themes. Noah gave a small smile. I hate themes. My theme is no theme. Claire's mouth twitched. Good. Emily set a dessert plate in front of Claire. Eat. This is not optional. This is self-care disguised as sugar. Claire smiled faintly. Yes, boss. Emily's expression softened. No, boss. Friend. Boss is still outside. They carried plates back into the living room. People ate quietly. The dessert did what dessert always did. It soothed people into being less sharp. Richard sat on the edge of the armchair, holding his plate like it might redeem him. He looked subdued, but not resentful. Noah suspected it was because Emily had corrected him without humiliating him. That was Emily's skills. She could stop a problem and still leave the person with dignity, which was unfairly effective. Ben chewed slowly like he was practicing calm. This dessert makes me feel like a person with a future. Mia glanced at him. Keep eating then. Jordan checked the time and gave Noah a small nod. 2 minutes, Noah turned the music down a little more. He did not turn it off. Silence could feel too charged. He wanted the room held by a gentle sound. Emily stood near the window with her cup. Mia sat on the couch. Jordan stood near the coffee table. Ben hovered close to snacks. Richard held his plate and tried to look like he had always wanted a quiet night. Claire sat near the edge of the couch, feet tucked under her. Luke stood near the bookshelf, tea in hand. They were in the same room, both breathing. That was enough for now. Jordan spoke calmly. All right, last minute of the year. Ben looked around. Should we do anything meaningful? Mia raised an eyebrow. No. Ben nodded quickly. Great. Love that. Noah glanced at everyone, then kept his voice light. We can just count. Then we can toast with whatever is in our cups. Then we can keep being boring. Emily nodded. Perfect. The clock moved. The room grew quiet but not tense. Quiet like a shared breath. 10, 9, 8. The counting was soft, overlapping, imperfect, which made it feel human. Nobody tried to lead it, nobody tried to perform it. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. They lifted cups, sparkling water, tea. A small amount of something bubbly. No one kissed anyone, no one screamed, no one started a chant. The year changed quietly, like it was respecting their exhaustion. Noah raised his cup. To a calmer year, Mia nodded. To fewer themes, Ben lifted his cup. To celery being appreciated, Emily smiled. To accountability without spectacle, Jordan nodded. To friends who try, Claire lifted her cup slightly, voice quiet but clear. To being allowed to breathe, Luke nodded once, and his voice was gentle. To doing better, they drank. The moment was small and good. Noah felt something in his chest loosen, not fixed, not healed, just less tight. Outside, snow kept falling, steady and soft. Inside, the lights glowed. The group stayed together, not perfect but present. Chapter 9. Midnight without fireworks, just truth. After midnight, the room did not explode into celebration. It settled. The string lights kept glowing. Snow kept falling outside with patient confidence. The music stayed low, like it understood the assignment. The apartment looked the same as it had an hour ago, which felt like a small mercy. Nothing dramatic had happened at midnight, and that was, in this group, a triumph. Noah carried empty cups into the kitchen and came back with fresh water like he was running a quiet spa for emotionally tired adults. He moved slowly on purpose, giving the night space to remain gentle. He had hosted enough to know that people often ruined good moments by trying to make them meaningful out loud. The group lingered in soft clusters. Jordan stood by the coffee table, collecting game pieces with the careful attention of someone putting a room back in order. Emily sat on the couch with her cup, posture relaxed for the first time in days. Mia leaned against the wall, watching everyone with the calm vigilance of a person who had prevented several small disasters and was prepared to prevent more. Ben hovered near the snacks, chewing slowly, eyes thoughtful. He looked like a man who had survived his own mouth and was grateful. Richard sat in the armchair, holding his cup with both hands. He looked quieter than usual, like someone who had been reminded that being liked was not the same as being in charge. Claire remained on the couch, shoulders less tight than earlier. Luke stayed near the bookshelf, still holding tea. He did not hover near her. He did not avoid her either. He existed, which was for Luke a form of restraint. Noah sat down on the edge of a chair and let himself breathe. Ben broke the silence first, because silence always tempted him like a dare. This was a good midnight, very calm, no chanting, no poetry, no tragic monologues. Mia looked at him. Do not tempt fate. Ben nodded quickly. Understood. I am done talking forever. Emily smiled faintly. That might be too ambitious. Ben looked relieved. Thank you. I will settle for 10 minutes. Jordan finished stacking the last game pieces. People can talk if they want. Just keep it gentle. Noah appreciated Jordan for that. Permission without pressure. The best kind. A quiet minute passed. The kind where you could hear the radiator working and the snow tapping lightly at the window. Claire set her cup down on the coffee table, hands resting in her lap. She looked around the room, not performing, not searching for attention, just checking that the people she cared about were present. I want to say something small. The room went still, not tense, attentive. Noah felt his host instinct rise, ready to buffer, ready to redirect. He held it down. If Claire wanted to speak, she was allowed. Speaking was not the same as performing. Claire kept her voice calm. I am not going to explain anything. I am not going to give details. I just want to say that this week has been heavy for me, and I think for other people too. Emily nodded slightly, encouraging without interrupting. Claire continued, I have felt watched. I have felt like people were filling in blanks with their imagination, and it has made me want to hide, which is not how I want to live. Luke looked down, jaw tight, listening. Claire looked toward Noah briefly, then back to the group. Tonight has been good. It has been quiet. It has felt safe. I appreciate that Mia nodded once. Good. That is the point. Claire's mouth twitched, a faint smile. Yes, exactly. She took a small breath. I also need something going forward. I need us to protect each other, not by pretending nothing happened, but by refusing to make it entertainment. If anyone hears gossip, do not pass it along. Do not add to it. Let it die of boredom. Ben nodded rapidly, eyes wide with sincerity. Yes, absolutely. I want it to die immediately. Mia looked at him. Good. Then do not water it. Ben swallowed. I will not water anything ever again. Jordan spoke gently. That is reasonable. We can do that. Claire looked a little relieved, like she had set down a weight and nobody had kicked it back to her. Thank you. Noah felt proud of her, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way, the kind that fit the night. A pause followed, soft, human. Luke stepped away from the bookshelf and moved a little closer, still not invading Claire's space. He kept his voice low and steady. I want to say something too, brief. Claire looked at him. She did not nod or shake her head, she simply waited. Luke's hands tightened around his cup, then relaxed. I made choices last week that were not good. I drank too much. I acted like a version of myself I do not like, and it affected other people, especially Claire. Ben stared at the floor as if the floor could absorb second-hand shame. Luke continued, I am sorry. I am sorry for putting you in a position you did not ask for. I am sorry for making you feel watched. I am sorry for making our friendship feel like a topic for strangers. Claire listened, expression steady. Luke took a breath. I am not asking anyone to forgive me on a schedule. I am not asking anyone to pretend it did not happen. I am just saying I own it, and I am going to do better, starting with not drinking like that again. Noah watched Luke as he spoke. Luke was not performing. He was not charming his way through it. He was simply being accountable, which was rare enough to feel like a small event. Luke glanced toward Claire without pushing. I will follow your lead. I will respect your boundaries. I will keep it normal at work. And if I mess up, I will correct it quickly. Claire gave a small nod. Not approval, not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. Okay. Luke's shoulders loosened slightly, like he had been holding a breath for a week. Ben lifted his head, eyes earnest. I also want to apologize. Not for Luke. For me. Mia did not move, but her expression sharpened, prepared to stop him if he turned it into theatre. Ben held up hut hand as if making a pledge to keep it short. I have been loud. I have been anxious. I have been trying to be funny, and I have been making it worse. I made a weird comment in the copy room. I talked like a man trying to prove he was innocent of a crime nobody accused him of. Emily's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Ben kept going, still trying to stay brief. If anyone felt stressed because of me, I am sorry, and I will not do that again. I will stop trying to fix things with jokes. I will fix things by shutting up and being normal. Mia gave him a long look, then nodded once. Thank you. That was the correct length. Ben looked relieved. I practiced, Jordan nodded. That is good, that helps. Richard cleared his throat, because of course he did. Noah felt the room brace, just slightly. Richard looked around with a smaller smile than usual. I want to say, as well, that I did not handle my part well this week. I tried to create structure, and I may have created pressure. That was not my intention. Emily looked at him steadily, inviting sincerity and nothing else. Richard continued, voice quieter than Noah had ever heard it. I am sorry if my reminders felt like public commentary. I see now that it can land that way. I will do better. I will keep things private and supportive. Not performative Mia's expression did not soften much, but it did change. Less sharp, more neutral. Thank you. Richard nodded as if he had been given a rare gift. Thank you for telling me. Noah watched that moment carefully. Richard was still Richard, but he looked for a beat, like someone who might actually learn something without turning it into a slide deck. A quiet calm returned to the room. The apologies did not solve everything. They did not need to. They simply made the air less heavy, like cracking a window in a warm room. Noah stood and walked to the kitchen, returning with a plate of leftover dessert and placing it near the center of the tables. No more serious speeches. Only Sugar Ben nodded solemnly. Yes, sugar only. Emily leaned back into the couch. I am proud of us. Quietly. Privately, Jordan gave a small smile. That is the best kind of proud. Luke sat down on the far end of the couch, leaving space. Claire stayed where she was. The space remained between them, but it felt chosen, not forced. Mia looked around the room more time. Okay, now we do the radical thing. We let the night end without trying to squeeze a lesson out of it. Noah nodded. Agreed. People began to gather coats and empty cups. Not rushing, just winding down. The snow outside made everything feel slower. The city did not demand anything from them. It simply existed, quietly, like a patient witness. Emily put on her coat and looked at Noah. Thank you for hosting. You did it without turning into a cruise director. Noah smiled. I was close. Mia stepped toward the door. You did well. Do not make it a habit. It could ruin your personality. Noah accepted that. I will stay flawed. Jordan paused at the door. This was good. People needed it. Noah nodded. Yeah, Claire put on her coat last. Luke waited near the door without crowding. Claire opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Luke followed a moment later. They did not speak in front of everyone. They did not make it a moment. They simply left at the same time, quietly, like two people respecting the boundary of a shared space. Noah closed the door and leaned back against it. The apartment was suddenly quiet in the way it had been before anyone arrived. But it felt different now. Less tense. Less haunted. He turned off the music and left the string lights on. The lights glowed softly over the empty cups and the half-eaten snacks. The physical evidence of a night that had not become a disaster. Noah looked around and felt a calm tiredness settle in. Not despair. Not stress. Just the normal fatigue of being human around other humans. He picked up a cup, carried it to the sink, and let the water run. The year had changed. The problems had not vanished, but the room had held them without breaking. That was enough. Chapter 10. The morning after, the year before. New Year Day arrived without ceremony. The snow outside had softened the city into quiet lines. The morning light came through the blinds like it was trying not to wake anyone too quickly. Noah woke up on his couch with a throw blanket half covering him, and a pillow that had clearly lost a fight. His apartment smelled like lemon dish soap and faint salsa, which was not a scent candle anyone sold, but it was honest. He sat up slowly and listened. No voices, no laughter, no board game pieces clacking, just the radiator and the distant hush of a city taking its own quiet breath. Noah stood, stretched carefully, and walked into the kitchen. The sink was full of cups and plates. The counter had crumbs. The coffee table had coasters scattered like a small harmless storm. He looked at the mess and felt something close to affection. It was proof that people had been here, proof that nothing had been smashed, emotionally or physically, proof that a night could be complicated and still be kind. His phone buzzed with a message from Emily. Not a group chat, just a simple check-in. Hope you are not unalived by dishes. Thank you again. Noah smiled and typed back a short line. Alive, barely, coffee first. He set the phone down and started cleaning slowly. No rushing. Rushing made everything feel like punishment. He put on soft music at a low volume, something gentle. He washed cups, then plates, then forks. He wiped counters. He gathered game pieces and stacked them neatly. He found a napkin folded into a small square on the couch. Mia had likely placed it there with intention, like a tiny flag planted in the land of Auden. Noah laughed quietly and put it in the trash. Around noon, the doorbell rang. Noah opened the door to Jordan holding a small bag. I brought you something. Noah took the bag and looked inside. Bagels, a small container of cream cheese, a single bottle of orange juice. You are a hero. Jordan stepped inside and looked at the apartment, taking in the evidence of last night. You survived. Barely. But yes. Jordan smiled slightly. It was a good night, Noah nodded. Yeah, it was. Jordan set his coat down and helped Noah gather trash without being asked. Jordan had the kind of helpfulness that did not announce itself. After a few minutes, Emily arrived with a small container in her hands. Leftover dessert. I do not trust Ben to be alone with it in his own home. Noah took it. You are consistent. Emily looked around. Cleaner already. Impressive. You are evolving. Do not spread that rumor, Emily smiled. How are you, really? Noah considered it. He did not want to be dramatic, but he also did not want to lie. Tired, relieved, still a little tense in the shoulders. Emily nodded like that made sense, because it did. The shoulders will relax eventually. You did a good thing last night, quietly, Jordan added gently. It mattered that the room stayed safe. Noah looked at them both. I worried it would be awkward. Emily shrugged. It was awkward, and it was still safe. Those can coexist, Noah laughed softly. That is the best summary of our group. A little later, Mia arrived with a small bag of trash liners and the expression of someone dropping off supplies to a disaster zone. I came to make sure you were not living in chaos, Noah gestured to the clean counter. You are too late. I cleaned. Mia looked disappointed. I missed my moment of superiority. Emily smiled. Do not worry, there will be other moments. Ben arrived last, cheeks pink from cold, holding a bag of coffee beans like a peace offering. I brought coffee, real coffee, to office coffee. Mia stared at him. You are learning. Ben nodded, proud. I am trying to be a person with range. Noah accepted the coffee beans and pointed at the couch. Sit. Do not touch anything breakable. That includes conversations. Ben sat down carefully like he was afraid the couch had rules. Claire did not arrive, Luke did not arrive, nobody mentioned it right away. Noah appreciated that. Not every absence needed to be examined out loud. They ate bagels in the soft daylight and talked about harmless things. A movie someone watched, a book Jordan was reading, the snow outside, the strange way the calendar made people believe they could start over with no effort. At one point, Ben looked toward the window and spoke quietly. I am going to be normal at work this year. The strange way the calendar made people believe they could start over with no effort. At that point, Ben looked toward the window and spoke quietly. I am going to be normal at work this year, Mia nodded. Good, Ben glanced at Noah. Also, I am sorry again for the copy room, for the word rumors, for my general inability to be quiet when quiet is needed. Noah kept his voice calm. I accept. Now move on by behaving differently. Ben nodded, relieved to have a clear task. Yes, I can do tasks. Emily looked at Ben. Start with not narrating your own growth. Ben pressed his lips together and nodded again. Jordan stood to leave first. He picked up his coat and looked at Noah. This will settle. The office will get bored. People will move on. Noah nodded. I hope so. Jordan's expression stayed calm. It will, if nobody feeds it. Mia nodded from the couch. Nobody feeds it. That is the new religion. Emily stood as well. I have a plan for work. Quiet reinforcement, no public lectures, and if Richard tries another slide deck, I will stop it at the title. Ben looked alarmed. "Can you stop it at the file name?" Emily smiled. "I can stop it at the thought they left in small waves." Mia lingered a moment at the door. "You hosted well." "I dislike admitting it," Noah smiled. "Thank you," Mia shrugged. "Do not get sentimental. It ruins the mood." Then she left, and the apartment became quiet again. Noah sat down and let himself rest. The year was new. The problems were not erased, but something had shifted. The group had faced a week of awkwardness and tension, and had chosen, at least once, to be kind on purpose. A few days later, the office reopened at full volume. People returned from vacation with stories about family dinners and travel delays, and how they had definitely not checked email, which was always a lie. Noah walked in and felt the building doing its normal thing again. The garland still blinked, the candy bowl still sat tight. The cinnamon smell was weaker now, as if even the air freshener had moved on. At Noah's desk, Ben arrived with a serious expression and a bottle of water. "I am in my hydration era," Mia walked past. "Nobody asked." Ben nodded. "I am practicing silence. This is me practicing by stopping now." He stopped. It was impressive. Claire arrived a few minutes later. She looked more rested. Not fully, but enough to notice. She nodded at Noah and Mia and Ben, then sat down and opened her laptop. Normal, quiet, present. Luke arrived later carrying tea. He nodded at the same people. He kept his head down. He did not glance toward Claire's desk too often. He acted like a person doing what he promised. Noah felt the office air shift in a subtle way. The tension did not vanish, but it lost interest. Without new fuel, the rumor outline in people's heads began to fade, replaced by fresh distractions and fresh deadlines. Emily called a short meeting in conference room A. No slides, no speeches. Just a few clear points about work and a gentle reminder about respecting privacy. She delivered it like a professional, which meant it landed without drama. After the meeting, Richard approached Noah near the coffee machine, scarf perfectly arranged as always. "Noah, about last week, and about New Year Eve." "Thank you for including me," Noah kept his tone polite. "You are welcome." Richard hesitated, which was rare enough to be noticeable. "Emily spoke to me about not making people feel watched. I did not realize I was doing that." Noah looked at Richard and saw something almost sincere. "It is easy to do without meaning to," Richard nodded slowly. "I will try to do better." Noah chose a gentle truth. "Doing better is quieter than you think." Richard managed a small smile. "I am learning that." Then Richard walked away and Noah stood there for a moment, mildly surprised that a conversation with his boss had not resulted in a policy document. That afternoon, Noah saw Claire and Luke pass each other near the printer. They did not stop. They nodded, small and normal, like friends rebuilding something wine brick at a time. Noah returned to his desk and stared at his screen. Work waited. Life waited. Friendship waited too, not as a problem to solve, but as a thing to keep choosing. He thought about the year ahead and felt a calm, realistic hope. Not the kind that believed everything would be easy, the kind that believed people could be imperfect and still be good to each other. Noah opened a new document and started typing copy. For a client who wanted bold but not too bold, he smiled faintly. That was everyone, really. Bold enough to be honest, careful enough to be kind. And next year, Noah thought, they might try something truly radical. They might try honesty before the dessert table.